While the London crowd brought energy, I'm Joe Retton with the retro review of WCW Nitro for November 13, 2000. We are heading towards Mayhem 2000, and look, the UK crowds provide some great energy, and that was really about the biggest selling point of this show. They drew over 10,000 people, which is way better than they were doing in the US markets by this point, because WCW was eroding. They had some good talents, some that could have been good in the future, but they waited too long to hit the reset button, and it was just a rapidly eroding company. It was rotting from the inside, no matter how much effort the talents put in. So they had no Mark Madden because they wanted to save on shipping container costs, because it would have taken a freighter to move that goddamn idiot over there. They couldn't have put him on a plane. So the roster's all around the ring. Ric Flair's there, and he says, hey, we're going to have the London Lethal Lottery, because why not? Why not bring back the Lethal Lottery? It was such a bad idea in the first place, and then they kept doing it, and then they kept doing it, and now they're going to just do it right here because they're trying anything to drum up interest. So, also he mentions that Mike Sanders needs to stay on the right track and needs to decide in 48 hours if he's going to defend his Cruiserweight Championship. And the London Lethal Lottery will be 8 men picked at random, 4 teams. The winning team, the 2 members face off on Thunder. The winning person there gets to face the WCW champion, the Nitro after Mayhem. Okay, a bit complicated to get to a number 1 contenders match, but it is what it is. Plenty of companies, WWE included, have done really complicated stuff for absolutely no reason. So the teams are going to be Mike Awesome and Bam Bam Bigelow, who don't like each other, Scott Steiner and Sting, who really don't like each other, Booker T and Luger, who don't like each other, and Alex Wright and Disco Inferno. So you would think logic would dictate that they would have Alex Wright and Disco decide to, go to the finals at least, to maybe have would these 2 tag team partners, would the Boogie Nights explode? Nobody would care, honestly, but the winning members get to face off on Thunder. So we get to see 2 matches, and then the 2 teams at the end of the night face off. And then we got 2 guys left. Pretty simple concept. But then a giant brawl breaks out, and all the guys get in the ring and everything, and I think 15, 20 seconds later they go to commercial. It's fucking ridiculous. Crowbar is congratulated by Vito. He says, hey, we're the hardcore champion. But Crowbar's like, you helped me, but I won the title. So I'm the champion. And Vito's like, well, maybe I'll get a title shot, coming up, and I'll prove you wrong. So he gets a match a little bit later. Mike Sanders then says, hey, Storm, you can have your match against Hugh Morris tonight because fuck the pay-per-view. The buy rates were absolute shit anyway. Hey, Scott Steiner, you need to go to anger management. Scott Steiner's like, no, I will find out who put me with Sting tonight. That's pretty much what he said. And then he decided to just, run off with Medeja. They decided to have Medeja talk later. And I'll talk more about that here in a bit. Vito versus Crowbar, hardcore title. A mess, but it wasn't boring. They went out into the crowd and then into the backstage area. He got put through a table of fish and chips because London. We need to make fun of all cultures when we're an American wrestling company. Apparently. I don't fucking get it. I've never been to London, so I've never had fish and chips. Or at least their version of fish and chips. So anyway, go back to the ring. Crowbar is diving all over the place, doing some crazy stuff. They got a table set up that they eventually put in the ring. They don't really know what they're doing necessarily. They know what they're doing as far as in-ring work, but furniture, unless you plan this stuff out, it's never going to work out the way you want it. Eventually a Mafia kick hits the referee. So the referee's down. Even though it's a hardcore match, so there's no rules, Reno appears from the crowd, hits Vito with the bat while the ref's down, but it's a hardcore match, and then a superplex where Crowbar, as good as he was in the ring, barely got Vito up for that superplex. It looked like he brained himself and almost brained Vito. And then he got the victory, so okay, Crowbar retains the championship, but why did they do the referee, distraction thing when it's a hardcore match and anything goes? That's what I don't fucking get. And then Mike Awesome and Bam Bam Bigelow talk about the main event. They don't like each other, but they got to work together. And the Natural Born Thrillers are here. Nash found himself to be SOL. You know what that means. And then Nash is out to a pretty big pop. He says, you didn't finish me, boys. Phrasing. They try to finish Nash, and he tears his quad. And it's going to be a 4 corners match. Nash versus O'Haire, Jindrak, O'Haire, Palumbo, and Stasiak. I kind of lost track of what thrillers were in the match because they decided to all run out at the end of that match, and it makes absolutely no sense. So, he says, Stasiak, your ass is mine. He likes the meat. If you get it, you get it. And then Sting says, it's obvious there's no strategy at all. Sting summarizing WCW in 99, 2000, and 2001 pretty damn well. And then Skipper is hitting on Miss Jones, who is Ernest Miller's assistant or lover, or I don't fucking know. She could be his accountant for all I care. I don't think too many accountants dress like that, but I'm not here to kink shame. And then Miller says, oh, we're going to have a fight. By the way, I think she slaps him. And she beats him up a little bit later. London Lethal Lottery, first match. Mike Awesome and Bam Bam Bigelow versus Sting and Scott Steiner. And then Booker and Luger versus the Boogie Knights is on later. But it changes from one of those teams. Which one? We'll find out here in a minute. So, yeah, the partnerships break down pretty quickly. It's a mess. T-bones for all. Especially, a really, really big T-bone suplex on Bam Bam Bigelow. And the recliner taps Mike Awesome, so it is what it is. And the entrances, by the way, were longer than the goddamn match, which was absolutely... They might have actually been closer to equal time, but I swear the entrances were fucking longer than the match, which is hilarious. And then Jimmy Hart, with another, plug, preceding announcement, he's going to fight whatever DJ. And he mentions, I swear it's the same one for Nitro about a week or two ago. And then the Boogie Knights are going to pay Chronic to take their spot because they don't want to face Scott Steiner and Sting. They want to give up a world title shot because they don't want to get beat up by another wrestler. Disco Inferno would make a decision that's stupid. Alex Wright, by the way, it's a shame that he never went to WWE. I mean, he seemed to be going to do his own thing. He's actually, I guess he's operating a wrestling school, and good for him. But it's just a real shame that, by 20, because he was, 26, I think, when WCW folded. And it's a shame even after his contract was bought out, they didn't try to bring him in. I don't know. I'm not saying he would have succeeded, but hell, he could have done the dance. He could have done the dance. There, let's gift that right there, because I know a few viewers apparently love it when I make an idiot out of myself, as opposed to when I don't make an idiot out of myself on my videos. So, the Filthy Animals and Stooge Flair. Hey, they're doing this thing. They're using their payoff for this. No. Why is Chronic getting this opportunity? The Filthy Animals also, don't they have more than one TV they could watch? I just don't get it. MIA, I can't stand Hugh Morris or any of MIA. They're fucking idiotic. Chavo's a really big fucking idiot, given some of his beliefs, and I'll stand by that. Maybe that whole, if it's not why it's not right thing, actually turned out to be a bit true with Chavo. If you get it, you get it. So, yeah, MIA, Hugh Morris says, oh, Lance Storm, your ass is mine. A lot of ass getting tonight. And then they show recaps of what happened on the previous Nitro, where the Battle Dome guys are back. And they apparently attacked DDP, Rick Steiner, Ernest Miller, and who the fuck was the other one? Who was it? Buff Bagwell? I think it was Buff Bagwell. No wonder I didn't remember. It was Buff Bagwell. And so they went all the way over from the U.S. to London to do a pre-tape in an arena where I swear to God that wasn't the same arena. I swear to God they just shot that last week and just plugged it in. They were like, nobody's going to know us. Just have that. Battle Dome, by the way. If you've ever seen any of that show, and I actually did watch a couple clips before I decided to do this review, fucking hell, it is actually worse than the Rollerball movie. The new one, not the... Well, actually, the old one wasn't great. But the whole point is, it just wasn't... It was worse than American Gladiators. You know how hard you have to try to be... Or how hard you have to try to be worse than American Gladiators? I don't fucking get it. Flair then says, hey, Boogie Nights, you don't have the night off. You're going to have a match. You don't want to be in that match? Fine. You get another match later. Luger and Booker versus Chronic. And, man, Luger's legs had chronic fatigue soon after this, and I don't apologize for that because he hasn't faced a fucking day in jail for murdering Miss Elizabeth, or at least contributing to her death. London Lethal Lottery. I mean, it was better than the other one, but it wasn't much. There was a botched knee to the gut. Here's the one thing I don't understand. Brian Clark and Brian Adams were never very good in the ring as Chronic, maybe because they had chronic problems, maybe because of injuries. They'd been in wrestling for a number of years. You know, Brian Clark worked in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and I believe he worked in other independents before that, but then he was Adam Bomb. I'm not saying the guy was a goddamn world beater. Brian Adams was crushed all the way back in 1990. This is 2000, and they were still fucking rotten in the goddamn ring. I'm not knocking Brian Adams a person. The man passed away years ago, and it's terrible. They were a dominant team if you kept them in short bursts. They were like the Goldberg tag teams. Here's the thing, though. Goldberg had charisma compared to Chronic. They just didn't. They couldn't fucking talk. And then, Luger attacks Booker, and then Luger gets taken out, and then Steiner lays his lengthy pipe all over Booker's back. We get high time for 3. So, Chronic is going to take on Steiner and Sting a little bit later. And then Clark says, it's 4:19 and you don't have a minute. You get it? You get it? That's what it fucking is. Stasiak versus O'Hare versus Palumbo versus Nash. 4 corners, a mugging, Reno runs in, everybody runs in, it's a beatdown. And then DDP comes out, I think, next week. It's either next week or on Thunder, I'm not sure. But I know that they face off against O'Hare and Jindrak for the tag titles of Mayhem. So then, yeah, Skipper versus Miller with Miss Jones. She kicks him at one point, and then later Feliner for 3 after the Grey Cup ring thing gets taken out. Storm versus Hugh Morris. Basically, why wait for a pay-per-view in 13 days? Well, no, we're going to get... Wait, is it 13 days? Fuck, doesn't matter. Everyone get in here. Everybody just runs out, even though nobody was supposed to come to ringside. So everybody, Team Canada, MIA, all run out there. Major Guns is still out there and pulls Storm out of the way. And after Major Guns had been tortured by Lance Storm, she suddenly helps Lance Storm win the U.S. title back and then reveals herself to be a member of Team Canada. Because, what the fuck? Not that I cared about Major Guns, because she was just basically boobs that probably would have given her a black eye if she ran too fast. But she wasn't, she was just a woman that was there. They didn't feature her with any kind of personality. So, okay, why the fuck should anybody care about that? They're interchangeable people. And then... Yeah, so then she says, she rips off her top to reveal a Canadian top, by the way. Oh, I'm Team Canada all the way, except you fucking weren't before, so you were a mole. Playing a mole, whatever. London Lethal Lottery, Sting and Steiner versus Chronic. I got a question. Who gave Medeja permission to talk into a microphone and kill any possibility of the ratings boosting? Medeja has the personality of a wet blanket, that's set on fire. Actually, that's unfair. Because you could actually get some usefulness out of that. You actually could, there's something you could do with that because you could stamp out the frickin' blanket and everything. You can't silence her unless you cut the frickin' microphone. Medeja should have never been allowed to speak is my goddamn point. Messy, meltdown counter, Scorpion for 3. Chairs aplenty. Booker comes, hits Scott in the head, and then hits Sting because he's like, hey, you're both one to face me. I'm going to take you both out. And also Booker was going to lose the title at Mayhem in the next, 13 days. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.